on the recording.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our monthly Urban Devi Sanga. We see so many friends here amongst us today. Welcome, Roshni, Anupi, Chaya, Wendy, Guru Charana, Padma Dasi, Hari Krishna, Hamo Krishna, Didi, Dandakesha, Pat Dunphy, Nava Vrinda, Mary Smith, Constantina, Desiree, and so many more friends will be joining us today. Today we have a very special speaker who, if you all were on the call last month, got drafted to be our speaker for today. Actually, during that call last month, it was like, wow, we want to hear from Manjuali Devi Dasi. Manjuali Devi Dasi, will you do our next month's Sangha? And she was kind of like, I don't know, that's not really my thing. I'm not really a public speaker. But because she wants to serve her teacher, Prabhupada, she said so graciously said yes. And one thing that we can just say about Manjuali Devi Dasi is that immediately when you're in her presence or you meet her even over Zoom, her smile and joy is absolutely contagious. She just radiates this unconditional love and this gratitude that is super contagious and makes you want to practice bhakti also. And she has known Rukmini for many years. They go way back. And she actually began practicing yoga, bhakti yoga in 1971. And she was initiated or became a disciple or a student of Srila Prabhupada, who brought these bhakti teachings around the world in the 1960s in 1972 in Los Angeles. She and her late husband Jayatirtha were then sent to England to manage the Krishna temple there in 1976. Manjali worked for many years as a media librarian for the Times of London, and later she moved to the southwest of the UK and worked in the field of psychotherapy and counseling for an educational awarding body, producing training films and other educational material. She is a bhakti practitioner and active in interfaith dialogue, environmental and social causes in her community, and is also active in her garden. So we are
Yes.
so grateful. We are so grateful to have her here with us today. And the format for today's session will be our beloved Rukmini, who needs no introduction, as we all love her so much. We'll be interviewing her for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have times for questions and answers with Manjwali. So if you have questions that you would like to ask, please send them into our chat box directly to Leela DD, who will be then asking the questions on everyone's behalf to Manjwali, and then we'll just have some announcements at the end about our next Urban Devi, etc. So without further ado, I will stop talking now and hand over to our beloved Rukmini and Manjwali.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Manjuali, so happy to see you, dearest sweet sister. And I want to begin by asking you to invite all of us in by calling in a blessing or an intention, an invocation, or a guided meditation as you choose, or all of the above.
Okay, so first I just want to offer my obeisances to my Guru, Srila Prabhupada. So Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Yati Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nair Vishesha Shunyavadi Pasyacha De Satarni. So it's so lovely to be with you, dear Davies, today. And I just wanted to take a moment just at the beginning to actually take a deep breath and pause and just let go of the day and just let's close our eyes and just sit with our breath for just a minute. And in that moment, let's just call in a blessing for our gathering today so that we might actually receive what we need and for our highest good and for the highest good of all beings. So let's just take a deep breath and just hit the pause button, let go of the day and come present here in this moment. We just ask Srila Prabhupada and all our guides and guardians to be present with us today and to help us to share from the heart what we have learned on our journey so that you might be nourished and inspired on your journeys. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So beautiful. Thank you so much. So I think of you as such a sweet sister, mentor, and an example of so much selflessness to me and to everyone you meet. And it's such a feast, really, an enticing feast having you here with us at Urban Devi. And I just almost don't even know what to taste first or what to sample first. So thank you so much for being here. And
my honor, my pleasure.
Wonderful. So maybe you could begin a little bit with a little bit about your early life, because I know I always thought of you as a very devout Christian, and you're one of those people, sometimes you meet a devotee who's really worshiping on two tracks at the same time. You're devout on the path of bhakti, but you're also a very devout and observant person in contemplative Christianity. So I want to ask you more about that, but maybe a little something about your early life, or some beginnings, some roots, or maybe, something about your childhood, your father.
Yeah.
Amazing story of your father.
There's a few little stories. First of all, before I start speaking, though, I just really want to thank you, Rukmini, and all you Urban Devis for inviting me here today. It's just a great honor to be with all of you and to kind of share some stories. And also, I just really want to remember my dear God sister Jamuna, who actually inspired me so much on my path as a new devotee. And, it's been like 50 years since I've come to the feet of Prabhupada. And, my journey is, I was a Christian before I came. I almost became a nun when I went to a nunnery when I was 13 years old and said, can I join? And they said, you have to come back when you're 18. And by the time I was 18, but so I had a deep quest. And I remember growing up, my mother's mantra was never underestimate the power of prayer. And so that kind of underpinned my journey, but still, I was a child of the the 60s. So, and I had a quest when I was 15. I read Siddhartha and a kind of a light went on. And I thought, oh, there's something else out there. There's an Eastern path as well. And that really kind of broadened my outlook and actually deepened my search. And my father was Jewish. My mother was Catholic. My father actually, when he was in the Second World War, he was on a ship and it was torpedoed by the Mariana Islands, Saipan, near Saipan. And he had to swim for his life. And his best friend was a Catholic chaplain. And he said to the chaplain, if your God gets me out of here, I'll become a Christian. And his God got him out of there. They swam to the ship and it was going to leave the bay at dawn or something. They swam and he got to the deck of the ship and he was like on the deck for 3 days. But he did fulfill that promise, many years later. He met my mother, who was in the services as well. And So there was, I mean, I was a Catholic. So we had the different threads, a Jewish heritage, but not a strong Jewish heritage, and a Catholic upbringing. I went to Catholic schools. I went to Catholic University, though I dropped out to go to Woodstock. But, but after I just had a deep desire within me to understand what the meaning of life was. Why am I here? What is this all about? And what is the purpose of incarnation? And where do I belong? And that sent me, I dropped out of university after Woodstock. And I went to live there in upper state New York and do art, painting leather belts and things like that. But I was on a conscious journey. And I met the devotees. Well, that was a couple of years later. I'd met the devotees in San Francisco first at Golden Gate Park, and then, but I didn't really connect in Chicago. I went to visit my family, and I met them on the street in Chicago, and just 50 years ago, last month. So it's 50 years, can you believe, where is the time? And yeah, so that is my journey, but also my Christian heritage was still very important in my journey. And the day I was getting initiated from Srila Prabhupada, I went and I sat in the Catholic Church for 2 hours and asked permission from Lord Jesus to, that because I'd only been in the temple for so many months, and because I visited temples, but I'd only been there for a few months, and I just really didn't want to reject my Christ connection. So I went and I sat and I asked permission. And, as I mentioned to Rukmini, the world, that there was no earthquakes. I was all on my own in the church. And after 2 hours, really clearly, I heard, this will be good for your spiritual life. And I felt like I got permission. I wasn't rejecting, I was building on. Because Srila Prabhupada used to always tell us, if you chant Krishna, you chant Allah, you chant Jehovah, you chant Christ, there is one God. And he has many, many different flavors. He's infinite. So there are infinite ways to him, And so so my Christian connection, though I'm a Krishna devotee, in my little meditation room upstairs, I have a little area where I remember my roots. I remember my Christ connection, which is actually alive as well. And it's not that we're rejecting one faith for another faith. We're on a journey of discovery, of a connection, a personal connection with the divine.
Beautiful.
And so I don't know if that's kind of, and I say that, some people, that's why I'm a little out of the box.
That's what we love. We like out of the box.
A little left wing, because I can incorporate my beginnings into my life as a Krishna devotee. And it's all building, it's all complementary. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we like a little left wing on Urban Devi, and also Radharani is called the left wing gopi. So
yeah, she's
left wing. So I wanted to ask you, so you're American, but you live in the ancient city of Glastonbury in the UK. And it's almost as though you've lived many different lives because you've had so many experiences. But I wanted to ask you, you received initiation and blessings of Srila Prabhupada, and you served in the temple for 15 years in temple life. And I wanted you to ask you if you would share the story. Srila Prabhupada called you. He recognized your devotion to the deities. Maybe you could share that story. It's very beautiful.
Yes, I'll share that with you. So this was in about 1974. And I got initiated 72, Nrsingadev's appearance day, first initiation, Balaram's appearance day, second initiation, because they needed some help on the altars. So I was trained, and this is when Chilapati was just leaving. So Tulsi Devi and get his name. Anyway, I was serving the deities and I was dressing the deities in Los Angeles, in New Dwarka. And Srila Prabhupada was staying in Los Angeles for quite a bit of time because he was translating the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we had the huge blessing of Prabhupada going for his morning walk at Venice Beach and then coming. And this was the old temple room, which actually became the Diorama studio or the museum later. And Prabhupada would come in and, you know, the doors would open and the incense would be burning and we would be doing the chamra and we would see Srila Prabhupada just coming and looking at Krishna. Anyway, I was dressing the deities and one day, and then cooking the breakfast offering. And one day I finished the deities, Prabhupada was giving class and I was cooking the breakfast offering. And then word came down from Shruti Kirti, who was Prabhupada's servant. And he said, Manjuali, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you right now. And I went, and my heart started beating. I thought, oh my God, what have I done wrong? And and so I like took off the apron and I, you know, put the sari over the head. Well, it was on the head anyway. I was always on the head in those days. And ran upstairs. And I just remember, it's still in my mind's eye, the room upstairs. You remember that room, Rukmini? Srila Prabhupada's, there was an eastern window where the sun came through. That was on the alleyway there. And the room we painted, it was blue and with orange curtains. And Prabhupada told us that when he was a little boy, his room was blue walls with orange saffron curtains. So that was so I went in the room and there Srila Prabhupada was sitting at his low desk and the sun was just beaming in from behind him. And he was like golden. And he was sitting there. He just had he didn't have a shirt. He just had his top piece on. And and I offered my obeisances and I looked up and he was just luminous. And he looked at me very seriously and he said, did you dress the deities today? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, was it okay? And he said, and he looked at me and he said, very nice. And he said, the more you dress the deity, the more you dress your heart with Krishna consciousness. And then he said, and this is really wonderful. He just looked at me and he could see, you know, that he just gave me some mercy. He said, always serve Krishna, always remember Krishna, always love Krishna. And this life will be perfect, for you will go back to Godhead.
Haribo.
And he said, oh no, he said, for this life will be perfect. And you will go back to Godhead, which means that the next life will be perfect.
Oh.
And this wasn't just a message to me, this was a message for all of us. Always serve Krishna, always love Krishna, always remember Krishna. This life is perfect and the next will be perfect.
So beautiful, how precious.
And then he motioned to Shruti Kirti to get his little pouch where he had his money. And I was wondering what they were doing. And he put his hand into the pouch and he pulled out $20 and he handed it to me, dakshina for the deities, an offering for the service of the deities. So again, teaching, always giving, always serving. And then I said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, this will go for the next outfit, Janmashtami outfit. So I accepted the money from Srila Prabhupada for the lordships and went and put it in their little account box. You know, we just had a little tin box in those days. And I just thanked Srila Prabhupada. And that moment in time is timeless, because that was the first time. Well, actually, I had met Srila Prabhupada. I had 2 other connections with Prabhupada when I got initiated, of course, and then when I got married. But that was the one time when actually he spoke to me and he was pleased. And that pleasure, it's, I mentioned, you know, we don't know anything, everything. He has taught us everything. And so we, you know, when he praises us, actually, it's not about being honored and praised. It's about just have some reciprocation and knowing that, you know, it was just a little vignette in life that is timeless and precious. And I share it with you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your authentic appreciation of that moment. Wonderful. So you had 15 years serving in temple life, but 35 years worshiping in a home temple of your own, you were telling me. And I wanted to share, as you told me, you said you married and buried 2 husbands. You are the caretaker of your adult son who has special needs. You've lived in India, in the US, in the UK. You've been involved in interfaith dialogue in the UK and in India. And as Champak outlined, that you did research for the Times of London, you created films for training counselors and psychotherapists. But I wanted to ask you, can you share some details of your very personal spiritual practice? And how would you define contemplative spirituality? How would you define that for us?
Okay, so actually the bedrock of my life and the foundation of my life for all these years. And I know when I was working full time, it was, you know, a quick pooch in the morning and you know, quick rounds, and I'm retired now, so I have more time. But the bedrock or the foundation of my life and the reason I'm with you today is because I have a very regulated spiritual practice. And I rise early, I chant my rounds, I do some reading, I do my worship. I have little Gary Raj, who's been with me for 34 years or since 86. Actually, I used to worship the Gary Raj that's on the temple at the Soho Street Temple. And then he wanted to go to, he wanted better food. So he went to Soho Street. And actually, Srila Prabhupada had told Jamuna when Radha Londoneshwar were installed that Giri Raj should come one day. So the Giri Raj I had to give up, but he went there. So Giri Raj came back to me. But my practice is also, I incorporate meditation into my practice, quiet time, because in my my life, I find just sitting in the presence of my deity and sitting in the quiet and turning the name within my mind with the breath is very helpful for me to calm my mind and to come closer to the mystery, or to open myself up for the mystery. Contemplative prayer for me in my tradition, or in my tradition, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, you know, Krishna consciousness movement was a very action orientated movement. There's a lot of service, and once one retires, you know, and we don't do so much, or we don't live in the temple, we have to incorporate a way, I have incorporated a way into my life of remembering Krishna and following those key signboards that Srila Prabhupada told me about serving, remembering, and loving. So how do we serve, remember, and love when we're racing about all the time? It's about just actually being in relationship with the Lord. So when we sit and we pray, we actually welcome the Lord into our heart, and we sit with his presence, and with the presence, and that presence comes through the holy name. So the holy name is the anchor. The holy name is the living divinity. And so by praying with the holy name, turning the name in our mind and sitting in that presence, not just japa when we're chanting on beads and getting our number of rounds that we have to get done for the day because we've made a promise, but actually is just sitting in the presence of the Lord and praying for him to come closer, for her to come closer, and for us to receive what we need to receive, and then sending that out into the world as an act of service in healing the world, in healing all who need prayer, who need. So it's a multifold. It's actually a service to sit in quietude, turning the name, and trying and praying to be a conduit for the Lord's love. And it's something that is very personal. I don't broadcast this or talk about it. This is my own spiritual practice that actually enriches my days and helps me to feel the presence of the Lord in my life. And also it helps me to be of service and keeping it alive, and that's why I have a practice we chant our Gayatri, it's 3 times a day, but just at certain times of the day to pause and actually welcome in the Lord, make the connection, pause and make the connection throughout our day, so that actually the presence of the Lord is not just when we're in a temple. The presence of the Lord is not just when we're chanting on our beads, but the presence of the Lord is like a thread that weaves a tapestry through our life. And that practice is, and it's not always easy, the mind is going everywhere. Srila Prabhupada said our best friend or our worst enemy, the mind. But by actually sitting with the breath, sitting with the name, and letting go of all the chatter in the mind, and just sitting and welcoming the Lord into our heart is, anyway, it helps me,
Is that how you would define listening prayer? Is that
listening prayer for me, practicing the presence of the divine, and that's listening prayer is sitting and opening ourselves, emptying out ourselves, and calling the Lord to fill us. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is taking pause. What you're talking about is taking pause before beginning something.
Yeah, I always try to, because everything we do, we have to be present to do it, don't we? So how do you become present? You hit the pause button and you become present, consciously present. And it's so easy to chant your rounds and make your lists and plan, how you're going to decorate this room and what the new bed in the garden's going to look like, and what you're going to cook for dinner, and but actually the challenge is to be present in the moment, and that is a practice, right?
Beautiful.
And it takes effort to make advancement. It takes effort to do anything in life. So we have different little, tricks to help us to be present and to help us to take our practice deeper, because the human form of life is temporary. The clock is ticking, we're all in the queue. And so many of us, we never know from one breath to the next if we're going to be here tomorrow. So that's, what Srila Prabhupada woke us up to that and told us, we have to be prepared. And how do we become prepared? By practicing.
Very good. And you mentioned a phrase that I thought was so beautiful, the guha, or the cave of the heart.
Guha is the cave of the heart. And that is, and that is part of the meditation, is that the guha, the cave of the heart, there sits a temple for Paramatma, for our Atma, for the divine. So we visualize to go into the heart, and we make a beautiful temple there, and we invite the Lord in. Please come, hang out for a while. Show me your glory, inspire me, allow me to serve you, And that is, that the guha is the heart, the cave of the heart. And that's where, that is our inner temple. Yeah.
Beautiful. So this is how you would describe living in relationship with what you called the mystery, or sitting in the presence of the holy name.
Yes, and the holy name is the anchor. The holy name, actually, because Krishna is present in his holy name, isn't he? So when we turn the name in our mind and we anchor it in our heart, and then we send it out as an act of service, then that's an action, but it's also an absolute blessing. And we have the opportunity to do that by the grace of our Guru and the grace of the Acharyas and the grace of the saints that have gone before us. They have actually taught us that that Krishna is accessible, and that we can come closer to him by inviting him closer and by begging him and praying to him, please, guide me, please come into my heart and allow me to serve you. And have that welcome. And also, that sense of wonder is so important, that sense of, it's not just, automatic, you in your mind, you go and you do all your obeisances to all the sacred shrines. You do that. That is one of the pilgrimages. You can do the pilgrimage in the mind, can't you? But when we have an active practice, then every day it's different, just like life, isn't it?
So every day, with a sense of wonder, every day, every moment could be different.
Huh? It's different, but it's like when you dress the deities, or when you cook an offering. It's Prabhupada always taught us, just making tasteful arrangements. Remember that? Tasteful arrangements. So that's what the gopis did. That's what Srimati Radharani does. She's always making tasteful arrangements. So you're always thinking, how can I please my Lord? How can I be present to the grace that is actually flowing unconditionally? And how can you be present to the grace? By putting out your sail and catching it, by opening your heart and opening your mind to the possibility of grace.
And what would you say is, through all of this, through these many, many lives and many, many journeys you've had, what are the secrets of your joy? What's the secret of sense of wonder? Maybe some of us try to capture a sense of wonder, but maybe you could share some secrets of of your joy
You
and sense
know,
of
just
wonder.
like when you work in your garden or you look at a beautiful, you know, you plant a seed and you water it and you nurture it and you will it to grow. And then this most beautiful plant is in full bloom. And you just see that this is the grace of the divine, and that spark of light and beauty is in nature. It's all around us. We're interconnected with it. And that is, you know, every day. And, you know, as Rukmini was saying, you know, I have had challenges in my life. It's not all just fluffy stuff, you know. We have, you know, and every day is, you know, there's always challenges in life. And that is the nature of this realm. And it's not, you know, doing our spiritual practice is not an escape from that. It's actually a solace to help you meet the challenges of incarnation, but also at the same time, there's a joy there in doing it. And maybe it's, you know, there is a joy when we actually, and that's why, back to my mother as a little girl, prayer underpins everything, you know, just having a dialogue with the Lord, you know, asking for guidance, asking for inspiration, asking, and actually every day when we get up in the morning, dedicating ourselves, dedicating that day to the Lord, and then see what happens. Yeah, see what happens. I've dedicated, you know, and see what happens. And magic happens. Grace comes. Challenges come too, but we have the power and the discernment to know that actually, you know, we will get through. You know, we all have our karmas, everyone, you know, 35 people on this call today, we all have our karmas, we all have our troubles, we have our illnesses, and as you get older you get more, you know, but you know, you balance that with how fortunate we are, you know, and also and then you reach out to those that don't have, you know, and if you can't do it physically, you do it in the prayer world. Because actually having an active prayer life, an active, actually you feel connected with the world, you know, you feel you're of service, you know, in actually, you know, because prayer has power. And prayer with love has huge power. And that actually is service, just like Brajarani is going out and she's chanting on the street with Champa, and so Leela, some of you are out and you're chanting and that sound vibration is going out. And you know, you don't know, you're doing it as an act of service. You don't know where it'll be received, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is to be active and have the right intent. I am of service. I've taken birth to be of service. So Lord, please show me how to please you, how to help the suffering of the material world. That's why Srila Prabhupada came all this way, you know, on the Jaladuta, praying on the Jaladuta, my dear Lord, please, why have you brought me to this unforsaken place, you know? He came out of Vrindavan, out of, you know, Radha Damodar temple, out of the hub of the universe where Rupa Goswami Samadhi is. And he came to New York or Boston or wherever. And he came to, you know, bring, to uplift us, to awaken us, to actually give us the gift of Krishna. And, you know, and so it's our honor, but it's also our duty, you know, to share that with others as appropriate, you know. And if we do that, we actually feel, it gives us energy. It makes us really feel that we belong to him. Yeah.
I want to ask you, you have had a lot of challenges and a lot of suffering in your life. And how can we avoid placing blame when we are really suffering in our lives? When intense suffering comes, how can we avoid going to that place of blame and negativity and hopelessness?
Well, as we know, with grief, there's stages. But ultimately, we learn that actually what really is important is forgiveness. Because if we can't forgive, we can't actually move on. And, we have to know that, every one of us in our lives have been hurt. There's nobody in incarnation that hasn't been hurt. And it's just, and it's not just a sticky plaster on, I buried 2 husbands, So, it's a journey, going through loss, going through grief, going through, despair and all that stuff, but ultimately we have to, in the end, we have to see that forgiveness is important, compassion for ourselves is important, gratitude, because actually when we would never ask for suffering, but actually in some ways it's a huge gift, because when everything is taken away, you have to really go inside to the bare bones and see what resources you have within you. And Krishna comes closer when you beg and pray, and when you have such a difficult time. It's just, forgiveness is so important in our lives, because if we can't forgive, we can't move on. We can't move deeper. Forgiveness is really, really important, because with forgiveness comes compassion, and actually gratitude is there too. Gratitude, humility, forgiveness. They're all linked together. And ultimately, if bitterness makes us ill, bitterness is a negative. It's anger, envy, bitterness. They're all tamasic, and they drive us down. And we're not a clear channel if we hang on to negativity. So by the grace of the holy name, by the grace of the daily practice, by the grace of the Shastras, by the grace of the gift of friendship of each other, we become strong, we become steady, and we become, we can actually just turn inside and actually see that, everything has a lesson, everything has light and darkness, and it's finding to have equal poise between the two, so that we can actually see with clarity the way ahead. And that comes from deep prayer and the gift of guidance and friendships, soul friendships, which we have, which you Davies have together, where you can support each other and encourage each other, and own the stuff too. We all got our stuff, everybody. We all have negative stuff, because that's the nature of this realm, but it's just, don't let it hook on to you, right? It's like, and how do you not let it hook on? Prayer. And actually honesty as well, being honest with yourself and honest with your friends, with kindness too. Kindness is so important, and it starts with kindness to ourselves. Yeah. So does that answer it?
Beautiful. You said something about observing the signposts of discovery on our individual cosmic journey. And what does it mean? And what does it mean to be a hungry, conscious inner pilgrim? What does it mean?
Oh, this will take a few weeks, girls. Well, conscious, it sounds very cosmic, doesn't it? You know, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I had in my backpack the Tao Te Ching, Be Here Now, the Bible, Siddhartha, all the books. I came with a whole, and I remember they took all my books away. And they said you can have the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna book had just come out, you know, with George Harrison's signature inside of it. So you know, a conscious pilgrim. Yeah, what is a conscious pilgrim? It's just being signposts. What are signposts? Signposts are just being aware that every time you meet somebody, you know, when you just get a little click and you say, oh, you know, when little cosmic puzzle pieces slip into space, you know, and you're just, and you just get a aha moments, you know, those aha moments when you just think, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, you know, you just kind of see a sign, and it, you know, you get a message, you know. So it's just being open to Krishna's presence, you know, and it's being open to, you know, that we're actually eternal students, you know. We're
Beautiful.
not, we never get there. We're on an eternal journey, you know, back home, back to Godhead, whatever that means. And that means is that we're conscious pilgrims, and we're always looking for signs. Is Krishna
So is it
or is he that way?
is it about being observant, like a wide-eyed child in the wonder of the moment?
Yeah, it's being observant and being, you know, we're always searching. I mean, if we're just like, we're always moving. So where are we moving to, you know? Where is the quest? Where is the, you know, where is the goal? Yeah. And so where is the goal? So we have to look for signs, because it's magical and it's a mystery tour. This Krishna consciousness. And so, you know, I mean, you know, it sounds a bit new age, but it, you know, works for me. And it keeps it alive, you know. I mean, you know, life can be boring if you just have to kind of, where is it?
Beautiful, like a little child. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
But, you
someone,
know, it says in the Bible, though, you can't enter the kingdom without being like the innocence of a child, right? So even in the Bible, it says that we have to have the that sense of wonder and that sense of, you know, mystery. It's always just around the corner, you know. Where is he?
beautiful. So
That little
someone
boy,
listening,
blue boy, where is he?
little blue boy. So someone listening might be thinking, oh, she has so much faith, and I just don't have so much faith. How can we strengthen our faith?
By hanging out with those who have faith. That's one way. And how can we, you know, by prayer. I always go back to prayer. Asking, and you shall receive. Srila Prabhupada, he taught us, you know, that when we chant our japa, when we read, we do it prayerfully. We invite, you know, the Lord, you know. And what is faith? Faith is a total gift, you know. It's a total gift, but everybody can have it. It's accessible to everyone. So what actually is the spark that actually makes us say, oh, what inspires us? We're all different. So different things. Somebody can look at a beautiful painting or paint a beautiful painting, and they immediately feel the hand of the Lord in that. Someone can play a most beautiful or listen to a symphony and see divinity in that music. Someone can actually work in the garden or take care of animals and see divinity there, or hold a newborn baby and look at the miracle of birth and see divinity there. Divinity is all around us. And how is our faith strengthened? By asking for it to be strengthened. By having a desire. And how do we get the desire? By hanging out with those who have the desire. That's why the gift of fellowship is so important, because that actually nurtures us, that holds us, and that inspires us. When, we all kind of fall down and get muddy knees sometimes, we all lose the thread sometime and think, oh, or some tragedy comes in our life and we think, oh God, I can't cope. But actually, when we go back to prayer, when we pick up one of the holy books and just open it and put our finger down, miracles happen and we get a message, we get some help, So it's just like we just have to pray for help and help will come. We have to, and that is faith. That actually we are not alone, that we are held by a very beneficent universe and a divine being who actually is calling us home. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we just have to just listen. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
do the practice.
Thank you. So I want to ask you, time is flying by and I could just be in this conversation all day, but I do want to ask you that quite a few ladies on this call are single. Some of them would very much like to be in a relationship, some not. But what's your advice for single women on the path of bhakti?
Ultimately, we are all single, in the sense that when we are born single with nothing and we leave single. But relationships enrich our lives as well. And we learn so much. And, to be in a loving relationship with someone who is your soul partner is a huge gift in incarnation and can help us in our stages, in different stages, in our life. And I actually, well, my situation was different, but, I can see, it's not about whoever comes into our life is a gift, and we have to see, we have something to learn from people in our life, whether it's a partner or a dear friend, when you're young and it's more difficult because, society is, so much around couples all the time. And it's more difficult just sometimes being a woman on your own in society sometimes. But, wherever we are, ultimately, we have to, have our practice. So to be with somebody who encourages us on our inner journey and can share your inner journey is a huge gift as well. But it doesn't always work like that. So, I can't say, I'm an old lady now. I'm in my 70s, so I can, relationship, I've done it, But there was a time when I felt really, it was challenging being on my own for so many years, It wasn't easy, because you want to have a home, you want to cook for somebody, you can cook for Krishna. But it wasn't my karma this lifetime, so I accept that. And actually I see a gift in that too, so wherever we are, ultimately we have a relationship with the divine, and it is our gift of incarnation to nurture that relationship, whether in partnership or we're on our own. And if we have a hankering to have a partnership, then have it. Then have somebody, but be careful who you choose, that it'll be somebody who will encourage your spiritual life as well, So that's, relationships are always a risk. Positives, negatives, just like the rest, but also we learn a lot in relationships because, we're always getting a mirror. Yeah. We can learn a lot about ourselves in a relationship. And that is a huge gift too, is, we can see all the room for improvements, which all of us have, because that's just part of the game of being here. So I hope that's okay.
Thank you. So much wisdom. You said something really beautiful about Anjali, you want to share that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was speaking when I was staying in India once. This old sadhu said to me, when we meet somebody, we fold our hands and namaskara, and then we open our palms like this. May I be of service. And it's such a beautiful analogy because palms open mean that I am of service. Yeah. So palms like this is respect, and palms open, I am of service. Yeah. So that is something that, I always sat with that because I found it anchors us, respect and serving. And that's what Srila Prabhupada actually taught us, The Bhakti is a path of service, unconditional, loving service. So it's not a path of just doing, but it's doing with intention, doing with love, doing with presence. Yeah.
Beautiful. We want to open for questions, but I want to ask you, is there any just favorite quote or word of wisdom or inspirational something that you'd like to share before we open for questions?
Well, I'll just, I was reading something. Well, I'm always on quotes, Merlene, and I say quotes all the time. But I was just reading because we were speaking about fellowship. Yes, and in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 5th chapter, text, verse 24. This is such a beautiful quote that I just want to share with my friends today. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and is illumined within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So that is from the 5th chapter, and it's just about the deep prayer world, how it's always about coming, ultimately when we leave this planet, and when we don't know how our leaving is going to be, if we're practiced and have a good, robust inner life, then by the grace of our Guru Maharaj, we might be able to go and serve at his lotus feet again.
Beautiful. Thank you. My very own sister of my childhood has asked you what is the verse number? You said chapter 5. Okay, Leela just put it in. Chapter 5, verse number 24. Thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. So we could go on and on and on, but I want to, share this time. All of you may have questions that you may like to ask of
Better
Manjuali.
look at the gallery so I can see my friends. Hello, lovelies.
So Leela is going to be, the questions are going into the chat if any of you have questions, and Leela is going to be asking you those questions. Thank you so much. What an honor.
I mean, I must apologize, ladies, Davies, because I'm just not a speaker, but anyway, you just got a Manjuali,
So authentic
today.
So authentic.
And I don't really talk about my spiritual life and my practice, but because my darling Rukmini invited me, I just got on the hot seat. So I hope that you guys can relate and just, and just, just whatever you do, just do it with love and presence and kindness, and be kind to ourselves as well, and reach out to others, because there's so much in this world. There's so many people suffering, especially with the COVID now. And so, just kindness can just be a smile. Kindness
Thank
doesn't
you.
have to be doing. It's just an acknowledgement of presence and divinity within each other.
Thank
And
you.
that is, that's what we have in life, So just share the joy.
Thank you.
Okay,
You shed
questions.
so many treasures, so
I
many
need a glass
treasures
of
of your
water.
heart.
Glass of
Lila.
water.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. That's so insightful and so powerful. This speaking of prayer and that connection with him, with the divine, him, her. And your joy is just, it's infectious. I
Oh,
just
bless
feel
you.
overjoyed. There are some questions. So we have here, the first one, it's a really nice question. How to trust that grace being available when feelings such as tiredness, loneliness, and isolation come? Any story or place in the Shastra that you especially like for that purpose of recovering our trust in grace?
Beautiful question.
A beautiful question. Well, grace. I mean, look at Draupadi. Draupadi, they wanted to disrobe her, and and she just put her hands up in the air and just absolutely prayed and trusted, and Krishna gave her the sari just came down from the heavens, and she wasn't violated. So it's, there's so many stories, you read the stories of Queen Kunti, who had so much troubles. All the family was, so many troubles. And what did she pray? She prayed for Krishna, to be present, because in the middle of troubles, there is an underbelly, there is grace. And where is the grace? Grace is coming all the time. It's just that we have to be aware of it and welcome it in. That's what I believe. And Srila Prabhupada actually taught us, grace is the gift of incarnation, there is grace, but we have to become receptive to it. And that actually strengthens our faith and helps us, if we feel that it's just out there, it's not out there. We have to just kind of anchor inside, so many questions, so many ways that we see through the Shastra. I can't think of exactly. I think of Draupadi and Queen Kunti immediately as strong women in Shastra who absolutely trusted the hand of the Lord in their lives. And, ultimately, when everything is pear-shaped, as they say in England, we just have to say, throw those hands up in the air and say, my dear Lord, I've had enough.
What does it mean when everything is, what does it mean when everything is pear-shaped? I mean, I know my body is looking pear-shaped.
Pear-shaped means it goes, everything is, it's not a round circle anymore. It's pear-shaped, it doesn't have the unity of the circle. It's all wiggly on the bottom, And a pear shape means it's just a little out of, it's not the perfect circle, is it? So, yeah. Do you want to read me that question again? Can you read that question again?
Yes, let's see.
Or at least
how to trust that grace being available when feelings such as tiredness, loneliness, and isolation come.
I got it. Tiredness, we all are human, and tiredness is part of it. Illness is part of it. All the slog of life is part of it. It's real important to look after our bodies, to eat right, to sleep enough, and to get exercise, because the body is a temple. And that's why yoga and going for walks and breathing fresh air and eating a sattvic diet, it's finding a balance. In order to be effective in anything, we need a balance. Yeah. So it's, if you consider our lives, we're temples, then to have that balance is by nurturing ourselves and by giving ourselves time to be, if we're tired, go to sleep, and pray. And when you wake up, ask for grace, because no ask, no get, girls. Gotta ask.
That's beautiful. I like what you said. The underbelly of trouble is grace.
Yeah.
That's great. There's a general consensus in the chat that you're an amazing and excellent speaker. There are a couple of other questions. Mother Manjuali, Dandavats, and thank you for your beautiful sharing. What is your advice on how to approach our chanting to develop sweetness in relationship with Krishna?
Well, chanting, I have the gift of being retired now, so I can just sit for 2 hours and do my practice, and every day, for me, up early in the morning is so important, because before the prawn of the land is it's just the time before the Brahma Muhurta time, that time, an hour and a half before the sun comes up, is the veil is thin. The veil is real thin. So you really can feel that the tangible presence of divinity in the name when the busyness of life has, and I mean, in New York, you got 24/7 anyway, but still, just getting up early is a real secret, because, and trying to have a schedule, real important to have a schedule. And so that actually we can do our practice at a set time. And then we actually, because we're creatures of habit, aren't we? So it's about developing good habits to actually go the long haul, right? So, yeah, so chanting, and every day, I was chanting this morning and I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do in the garden, out in this little area here. And then I have to kind of go back to the breath, go back to the mantra, allow the mantra to turn in the mind and drop down to the heart and sit with it on the breath. And then that helps the mind. Yeah. So work with the breath, work with, make sure you get enough rest, make sure you're eating a sattvic diet, make sure you're getting some exercise, and make sure that, so it's just finding your balance, and also before you do your japa, before you do any spiritual practice, you just sit for a moment and become present and ask for help. Yeah. Because that asking will actually, the Lord will come and help you. Yeah. Your guru will come and help you. But you have to say, please.
Wow.
Yeah.
That pause and make the connection that you mentioned before.
Pause and make the connection. And actually, when you go off track, back to center, pause, make the connection. Yeah.
Great, thank
It's
you.
the same way in meditation. The mind is going off, back to the breath, and when you're chanting your japa, we work it on the breath. That's what, you're working with the breath, you're working with the name, you're turning the name, you're visualizing the name coursing through your cellular system. Yeah. The name is so powerful, as Brajrani will know. Name is actually our deity. Yeah.
Oh.
And so treat the name like a deity. Respect. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. We have, let's see. Thank you so much for this wonderful and generous sharing of your heart. I can relate so much with your spirit of prayer. That has been my anchor to not get totally lost, and his reciprocation is incredibly beautiful. I am just wondering, could you please share, in your dialogue with the Lord, what's your ultimate prayer?
Please, may I be of service. Yeah. That's what Srila Prabhupada taught us. That's what Lord Jesus teaches us. Please be of service. Please come close. I welcome you into my heart. I invite you in. Please come. Please come. Yeah. Please come if you want. You got an opt-out clause.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. You mentioned gardening a few times. Can you share any examples of how you incorporate your prayers and spiritual practices into your gardening?
Oh, yes, that's so important. Every time a seed is life. Yeah. And you put a seed in the ground and you put it in with love. Yeah. An intention. And every seed has an angel, has an angelic being that looks after the blueprint of that seed. Yeah. So when you put the seed into the ground, you actually, you offer a home to this little angel, this little seed, and you water it and you nurture it. And it's got such a symbiogy, the Bhakti Lata Bij, we learn about it. Srila Prabhupada taught us that our devotional life is like a creeper, and it's fed by nurture, by love, but by water as well. So when you plant a seed, it's like we're planting, we're growing our vegetables. Guru Chandapadma's on here. She's a great gardener. You plant the seed, but you plant it with consciousness and with prayer and offering it to Mother Earth, and Mother Earth will nurture it and it'll grow and it'll nurture you. Yeah. So it's just that cycle of life, the bigger picture. We're all interconnected. And again, it's just not like New Age stuff, but it is just, we're trying to be present. And whatever actions we do, we try to do it with consciousness, yeah? And with love. And then you get results. Just like when you're serving Tulsi Devi. I don't have a lot of light in my house, so Tulsi doesn't, it's a little difficult, but the plants outside do fine, but it's too cold for Tulsi outside, So anyway, but it's just like when we're serving the nature kingdom, we're serving the animal kingdom, the cows, we're serving, it's all part of Krishna's mastery, And so we do it with as an act of service. And also we learn something very valuable by gardening, by looking after animals, by looking after our families, There's lessons everywhere in life, and just whatever we do, Srila Prabhupada taught us, whatever we do it with prayer, but we do it with a conscious intent, yeah, of service. Okay.
Yeah, this one just is very connected to what you just said. The comment is, a breath of fresh air, thank you. Can you share how you maintain your relationship with Srila Prabhupada and how those of us who never met Prabhupada personally can deepen our relationship?
I only had maybe a handful of times that I actually spoke to Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada, our relationship with Srila Prabhupada and with all of your relationships with Srila Prabhupada is mystical. It's something that is beyond time and space. Yeah, it is, Prabhupada is available and accessible through prayer, through reading his books, through hanging out with those who love him. Yeah. And so, and Prabhupada, if we pray again, back to prayer, and if we study his books, he speaks to us and he is present. If we in our meditation space ask for his help, miracles happen. Miracles happen, and he will come and help you if you call him and if you want to come closer to him. Because that is the nature of Guru, you know. Guru isn't just the Vani and the Bapu, but Guru is only here for a moment in time. But Guru is always here. Yeah. He's here in his teachings. He's here in those who love him. He's here in his deity form. And he's here, you know, and he comes into our hearts if we invite him. Yeah. And he enriches our life if we invite him.
Wow, that's beautiful. There's a lot of comments of gratitude, a lot of comments about your speaking. So I guess since there are no more questions, unless I missed any, please let me know and I apologize. So I'll just ask you a question that's related to what you were speaking. So we pray, we trust, we have the faith, and okay, and
Somebody's in the waiting room. Jagadatri's in the waiting room.
they're admitted.
Jagadhatri.
I got it.
So how be and okay, so oftentimes the answered prayers don't look the way we want them to. So how do we discern which way, how to make those decisions that are following that prayer, and how to recognize the guidance of the divine and to see that this is my prayer being answered that may not look exactly how I wanted it to.
Yeah, I know, because we only see things linear in a linear way, don't we? We don't see the full picture. You know, we just have eyes at the front. We don't have eyes at the back of our head. So we actually only see, and sometimes when we pray, you know, we map out what we want. But it's not always for our highest good and the highest good of all beings, you know? So we just have to sometimes just sit with it, you know, and sit with it and you know, and listen to your inner guide. Inner guide can be so helpful. And that's why the prayer work actually helps us to kind of be in dialogue with the inner guide, the inner guru, the Chaita guru. And so, you know, everything is changing so fast, you know, and we think we need this and at this moment in time, and it doesn't come, and we pray and something else comes. And then what do? We take it back inside and we sit with it. Yeah. And we ask for clarification. Yeah. We ask for a sign. Yeah. Or we just go and open up a book and just a message will come. But it's just training ourselves to be receptive to actually what is for our highest good. And to always, you know, have our little monitor going, highest good monitor going, you know. What is it for my highest good and the highest good of all beings? Will it bring me closer to my quest of love of God? Because ultimately we all want love. We all want to belong. We want to be successful. But you know, it's a zigzag path, you know, nothing goes straight. Everything's zigzag. Yeah. But you know, there are like little signs. A wonderful sadhu told me once in India, Srila Shira Maharaj, he said, we have to go where we feel the current in life. Yeah, where we feel the energy, where we feel the current. And we're all different. We all have different needs. We've all got different backstories. But ultimately, you know, we're all this moment in time, all of us together. and this moment in time, we have to see the gifts, you know, we have to always look for the gifts and ask actually for clarity when things don't seem clear. And miracles happen. Believe in miracles. Yeah, definitely believe in miracles.
Believe in Krishna
I know
magic.
it's the power of positive thinking, but hey, it works.
So we have another few minutes of this questions section. So I'll just read some of the comments that are coming in.
Oh no.
One says, I just had a vaccination and went past the dental office called Divine Dental. That was my sign. Such a beautiful response. Thank you. I was watered in listening to you speak about these beloved plants. Oh, that was sweet.
Oh, I love my garden. My garden is my joy. One of my huge joys in life is to actually, and then to, you know, bring little flowers up for my Lord. It's such a joy.
I am so grateful to have joined even late as I have. Just hearing the realness of your heart makes the heart smile. Today was a blessing to join in our Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj disciples meeting and look so forward to hearing this whole class in the recording. Thank you for feeding our hearts today. Hare Krishna, Mother Manjuali. Every word is full of spiritual wisdom and empowering thoughts. And thank you so much for nectar.
Nectar.
Nectar. Thank you so truly much for such a wonderful and inspiring talk. You really melt my heart. And thank you so much, dearest Rukmini Devi also.
Oh, dearest Rukmini.
This has been
And
such a
Bhakti
powerful...
Tirtha Maharaj was such a wonderful devotee. I remember him. We remember him from Los Angeles when he was Ganesham. And I have so much respect for him. And when he, in his last days, I wrote to him and I had the most beautiful email back. You know, he was such a noble, spiritual, beautiful soul who is so, so dear to Srila Prabhupada. So my humble obeisances to his disciples. He was one of Srila Prabhupada's real jewels.
Wow. Jai. That's beautiful. Let's see. Thank you for the very positive atmosphere. The heart sweetness is palpable in your presentation. Thank you. And regarding Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he is the greatest gift to my life. Oh,
We miss
Lord
him.
Krishna.
But he's looking after. See, that's the miracle, is the timelessness of the spiritual presence, you know, the timelessness. And that is, he is accessible in the prayer as dear Jamuna Devi and so many other of our dear devotees who have gone beyond.
Yeah. Then there's from Champakalata. This has been such a powerful session. We love you, Manjali, and want to be like you when we grow up. Yes, and you are such a wonderful speaker. Yes, I second that. So many wonderful insights. Thank you so much for sharing. Beautiful speaker. Thank you so much for your wonderful sharing. I've loved listening to this so much, learned a lot from your experience and the time you had with Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. It's been wonderful and very satisfying for the heart. Thank you so much. So many luminous gems. You speak so beautifully from your heart with joy and compassion and kindness. There's so many. Oh, thank you so much. You put them in. There's some people entering.
Entering. Better late than never.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
That's
so
the
wonderful.
timelessness.
Huh?
The timelessness.
Yeah, timeless. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just.
This is I think it's time for our announcements. Thank you so much.
It's my absolute honor. Thank you. And thank you, dear Rukmini ji, for inviting me to your little sanga here. Beautiful ladies, I can see so many of you, and hopefully by the magic of Zoom, I hope that I've helped you, and you've helped me to come out of my little cave and share a little bit. And I ask for my forgiveness. Please forgive me if I've, not said anything that was, I mean, I just spoke from my heart. And so I hope everyone could just see that I'm just trying to share what works for me, but actually we're all individuals. So you follow your inner guides, follow your gurus, and take the holy name deeply within your mind and heart. And because that is the medicine. That is for the souls, that is our medicine. That is, why I'm here today after 50 years, is because of the grace of the holy name. And that's so, thank you. And that's
Thank you.
it.
So many
Thank you
precious
with me.
treasures. So many precious treasures. Thank you so much. You really
Yeah,
opened your heart and allowed us in to see the magic and the mystery of grace. So thank you. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think Champakalata will have announcements, and I just want to thank everyone here today. Thank you so much for your presence, for taking the time out of your day to be here with us, for your comments, for your questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to second that. Thank you all so much for joining the call today. This has been such a special session. Manjuali Devi and Rukmini, thank you so much. This just, you're just being in the presence of both of you, you just feel like, wow, I'm just in the presence of two great souls. And this conversation was so inspiring. Manjuali, you can just, when you listen to someone, you can just really tell that they're coming from a place of realization. They're not just speaking, but they're actually sharing their realizations. They're really living their truth. And so it just really inspires you to want to follow in your footsteps and take all of these things that you shared with us and implement them in our own lives. So I know that every single person on this call has been so inspired and uplifted in your presence today. So thank you so much. And our next Urban Devi will be on March 21st, Sunday from 2 to 3:30 p.m. And it will be with our beloved Rukmini Walker. She'll be our speaker. It's been so long since we've, just heard from her. And so we're really, really looking forward to that. And the topic is going to be all about Lord Chaitanya, because March 28th is Gaur Purnima, or the appearance day or birthday of Lord Chaitanya. So it's going to be all about Lord Chaitanya and the holy name, which Manjuali was just speaking about. So please join us on March 21st. The information will be posted on the website this week. And if you would like to join our WhatsApp group, we have a WhatsApp chat, and Brajarani just posted into the chat a link for you to be able to join that. So please join our WhatsApp group, where we post regular information and inspiration on Urban Devi things that are coming up. And if you don't follow Rukmini on Facebook, please go to Facebook, Rukmini Walker, and lots of information is there, including a link to her Patreon page where you can support her and hear more from her. So please check that out. And that's all the announcements that I have for now. Thank you all so much. We will also post the recording from today's session in the chat as well. And she just put in patreon.com/Rukmini Walker if you would like to visit Rukmini's Patreon page and support Rukmini. And yeah, because Rukmini does so much service and she's doing this all just out of her heart with love, but it's really an opportunity to reciprocate with her and support her by joining her Patreon. Thank you all so much.
Manjuali Devi Dasi ki
Rukmini Devi Dasi
jai!
Jai. Urban Davies ki Jai.
Oh, Haribol!
Community. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Beloved
Another
community.
community,
Beloved
totally. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Love you. Harilo. Harilo.